Welcome back. I am so glad you have joined me today for a moment of quiet reflection. Have you ever walked into a room and felt as though you were suddenly invisible? Perhaps you have felt the sting of a dismissive comment from someone who does not yet understand the weight of your life experience. Today, the world often seems louder and less respectful of the quiet dignity we have worked so hard to build. Marcus Aurelius once reminded himself that we have power over our minds, not outside events. He wrote that once we realize this, we find a strength that no one can take away. Consider a simple illustration. Imagine a relative making a cold remark during a family dinner. It is easy to let that one moment spoil your entire night. In this video, we will look at the principle of the ruling faculty and a simple practice to guard your heart. I invite you to stay with me as we reflect on these truths. If you are ready to reclaim your calm, please type, "I choose my response." I choose my response. At the center of our lives is a quiet power that the Stoics called the Hegemonikon. This is your ruling faculty, the sovereign judge of your inner world. The principle is simple. Nothing that happens outside of you has any inherent meaning until you give it your permission. You are the one who signs the papers and decides if an event is a tragedy or merely a circumstance. Your mind is like a courtroom where you are the only judge, and nothing becomes your reality until you allow it to pass the gates. However, applying this in our modern world can feel like an uphill battle. We live in an age of constant noise where everyone has an opinion on how we should live, how we should age, and what we should believe. It is especially difficult when we encounter the subtle disrespect of a younger generation or the coldness of a society that often overlooks the wisdom of those who have seen more of life. We are told to care about every headline and every social media comment, which leaves our inner judge exhausted and overwhelmed. To illustrate this, let us imagine a fictional situation that many of us have faced. Suppose you have spent days preparing your home for a long-awaited family gathering. You have cooked, cleaned, and looked forward to the connection with your loved ones. But as dinner begins, a younger relative makes a sharp, dismissive comment about your lifestyle or your home. In an instant, you feel the warmth leave the room. Your heart races, and you feel the heat of anger rising in your chest. You feel as though your hard work and your very person have been insulted. This is the moment where the ruling faculty must step in. Marcus Aurelius wrote about this very struggle in his private journals. He taught that the world cannot hurt your mind unless you agree to be hurt. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you will not feel harmed. Do not feel harmed, and you have not been." He believed that the words of others are like the wind. The wind may blow against a mountain, but the mountain does not become wounded unless it chooses to crack. By refusing to agree with the insult, you keep your dignity intact. The relative spoke, but you are the one who decides if those words have the power to ruin your evening. You can apply this when you find yourself overthinking a past betrayal or a hurtful remark from a friend. If the thoughts keep coming back, remind yourself that the event is over, and your mind is the only place where the pain still lives. Your ruling faculty has the power to file that memory away and refuse to let it hurt you again today. To practice this today, use the 5-second pause. When someone says something that stings, or when you encounter a situation that feels unfair, do not react immediately. Step number 1, count slowly to 5 in your mind. Step number 2, while you count, Ask your inner judge a single question. Is this person's opinion more accurate than my own truth? If the answer is no, then their words do not deserve a seat at your table. This 5-second window is the difference between a ruined evening and a peaceful heart. It is a small period of time that gives you back your power. I invite you to take this practice into your week and see how it changes the way you carry yourself. Please type in the comments, "I am the judge of my own peace." I am the judge of my own peace. The second principle we must explore is the practice of discernment through a tool I call the gatekeeper's ledger in our lives, especially as we move into our 50s, 60s, and 70s. We begin to realize that our time is the most precious resource we have left. However, many of us forget that our emotional energy is just as limited. The Stoic principle of discernment is about understanding that not all information is worth your attention. It is the realization that your mind has a gate, and you are the only one who decides who is allowed to enter and speak. The gatekeeper's ledger is a way to track your emotional currency. Every time you listen to an opinion, you are spending a piece of yourself. The Stoics believed that we should be as protective of our thoughts as we would be of our physical homes. You would not let a person with muddy shoes walk across your clean carpet without invitation. Yet many of us allow the muddy opinions of others to walk through our minds every single day. We must learn to distinguish between data that is useful and noise that is destructive. This is the art of knowing whose words actually carry weight and whose words are simply vibrations in the air. This practice is incredibly difficult to maintain in our modern world. Today, we live in a culture that seems to prize the opinions of the loudest person rather than the wisest. As we grow older, there is a specific kind of challenge that arises. You may notice that as you reach a certain age, people around you sometimes, even your own children or younger colleagues, begin to treat you as if you are someone who needs constant updating or fixing. They may speak to you with a subtle tone of superiority, as if your decades of experience have suddenly become obsolete because the world has changed. This can feel like a loss of status or a loss of dignity. It is easy to become defensive or hurt when someone who has not lived through half of what you have seen tries to tell you how to manage your life. We are surrounded by a constant stream of unsolicited advice, from health tips on the news to relatives who think they know more about your marriage than you do. The modern world wants you to be infinitely available and infinitely open to every suggestion, but the Stoic knows that infinite openness leads to a chaotic heart. To see this more clearly, let us look at a fictional situation that may feel quite familiar to you. Imagine you have a long-time friend named Sarah. Sarah is someone you care for deeply, but her own life has been a series of chaotic decisions. She has struggled with her finances. Her relationships are often in turmoil, and she seems to move from one crisis to the next without ever finding a sense of stability. One afternoon, while you are enjoying a quiet cup of tea, Sarah begins to lecture you. She tells you that you are living too quietly, that you need to change your health routine, and that your relationship with your spouse is lacking excitement. She speaks with great authority, as if she has all the answers. As you listen, you feel a familiar knot of frustration in your stomach. You feel misunderstood and perhaps a bit insulted. You think to yourself, how can someone who cannot manage their own peace try to tell me how to find mine? You feel the urge to argue, to point out her failures, and to defend your way of life. Your emotional energy is being drained by someone who has not earned the right to advise you. This is exactly where the gatekeeper's ledger becomes your greatest shield. When we look at this through the lens of ancient wisdom, we see that the Stoics were very clear about the value of an opinion. Epictetus, the great teacher who was born into slavery, taught his students to be extremely careful with their ruling faculty. He noted that most people are very protective of their bodies, but very careless with their souls. Epictetus taught that we should be as careful with our minds as we are with our physical health. He often pointed out a deep irony in human nature. Epictetus said that if a person gave your physical body away to a random stranger on the street, you would be filled with rage. You would fight back. You would call it a great injustice. Yet, he noted that many people feel no shame at all in handing over their own minds to be confused and troubled by anyone who happens to criticize them. He believed that allowing an unqualified person to upset you is the same as giving your body to a stranger. It is a total surrender of your freedom. By using the ledger, you realize that Sarah's words do not meet the criteria for entry. Her opinion is simply data that you choose not to sign for. You can apply this principle when you are dealing with family friction during the holidays, or when a neighbor makes an offhand comment about how you spend your retirement. It is also deeply helpful when you find yourself overthinking a betrayal from the past. When you feel that old hurt returning because of something someone said, stop and check the credibility of the source. Ask yourself if the person speaking lives a life of virtue and integrity that you actually admire. If they do not, you can apply this when you feel the pressure to explain yourself. You do not owe a justification to someone who is not qualified to understand your journey. To make this a reality in your life, I invite you to perform a credibility audit today. This is a simple exercise that only takes a few minutes but can save you hours of unnecessary stress. Step number 1. Think of the one person in your life whose opinions usually make you feel small or anxious. Step number 2. On a piece of paper or in your mind. Imagine a ledger with 2 columns. In the first column, list the virtues this person actually practices. Do they have self-control? Are they kind? Do they have a peaceful life? Step number 3. If that column is empty or very short, take a deep breath and mentally mark their opinion as void. Imagine your inner gatekeeper stamping a large red void across their words. For the next 24 hours, every time you think of what they said, remind yourself that the entry was cancelled because the source lacked credibility. You are not being unkind, you are simply being a good steward of your own peace. Do this for just one day, and notice how much lighter you feel when you stop carrying the weight of opinions that never belonged to you in the first place. This practice of protecting your inner citadel is not a one-time event but a daily commitment. It is about recognizing your own worth and refusing to let it be tallied by people who do not know how to count as you go through your week. Remember that your peace is a fortress, and you are the one who holds the keys. When the noise of the world tries to force its way in, look at your ledger and ask if that noise has earned its place. If it has not, let it stay outside the groove walls. You are a person of experience, dignity, and quiet strength. You have earned the right to choose who gets to speak into your life. Let your inner judge be firm, and your gate be well guarded. As we conclude this reflection on discernment, I want to leave you with a simple thought to carry with you. Your mind is the only thing that truly belongs to you, and it is your most sacred space. Treat it with the respect it deserves. When you protect your mind, you are not just practicing philosophy, you are practicing self-respect. You are honoring the life you have lived and the wisdom you have gained. Please take a moment now to acknowledge your own power in this area. It is a quiet power, but it is a steady one. In the comment section below, I invite you to share this commitment with our community. Please type, "I protect my inner citadel." I protect my inner citadel. Let these words be a reminder to yourself and an encouragement to others who are walking this path with you. We are all learning to be better gatekeepers, and your presence here adds strength to us all. May your evening be peaceful and your ledger be clear. We will continue this journey together in our next reflection. The third principle that allows us to walk through the world with a sense of quiet authority is the practice of amor fati, or the love of one's fate. This is perhaps one of the most misunderstood and yet most liberating concepts in the entire Stoic tradition. For many, the word fate sounds like a heavy weight or a dark corner from which there is no escape. But the Stoics saw it differently. They did not view fate as a prison, but rather as the natural flow of the universe. To practice amor fati is to move beyond merely tolerating your life and to begin truly embracing it as it is. It is the art of saying yes to reality, even when that reality is not what you would have chosen for yourself. This principle teaches us that every event in our lives, whether it feels like a blessing or a burden, is a necessary part of the whole. It is like a thread in a vast tapestry. From the back, the threads look messy and tangled, but from the front, every single knot and color is required to create the final picture. The Stoics believed that if we could see the world as it truly is, we would not want a single moment of our lives to be different. This is not about being passive or giving up. It is about an active, deep alignment with the truth of the present moment. It is about taking the cards you have been dealt and playing them with the skill and grace of a master. However, we must be honest about why this is so difficult in our modern world. We live in a culture that is obsessed with the idea of constant improvement and the avoidance of any kind of discomfort. We are told from a young age that if we work hard enough, we can control everything. We are told that aging is a problem to be solved and that physical limitations are failures of will. For those of us in our 60s and 70s, the modern world can feel like a place that only values what is new, fast, and loud. It is hard to practice the love of fate when we are surrounded by images of youth and stories of people who seem to have bypassed the natural wear and tear of living. Loneliness can begin to feel like a personal failure rather than a season of life. Chronic pain can feel like a thief that has stolen our identity. We find ourselves trapped in the loop of what if and if only. If only I had made that different choice 30 years ago. If only my health were what it was in my 40s. If only my children lived closer. These thoughts are like heavy chains that we drag behind us, making it impossible to walk freely in the present. The modern world encourages us to resist our reality, and in that resistance, we find our greatest suffering. We become exhausted not by our lives, but by our refusal to accept them as they are. To help us understand how this looks in real life, let us consider a fictional illustration. Imagine a man named Robert, who is 68 years old. For most of his life, Robert was an active outdoorsman. He loved hiking. He was the primary provider for his family, and he took great pride in his physical strength. But life has recently taken a very different turn. Robert now spends most of his days inside his quiet home, caring for his wife, Martha, who is struggling with her memory. His own knees ache with every step he takes, and his world has shrunk from the vast mountain trails to the small path between the kitchen and the bedroom. On a rainy Tuesday morning, as Robert helps Martha with her medication, a wave of intense regret washes over him. He remembers a time when they traveled the world together. He looks at his own hands, now spotted with age and shaking slightly, and he feels a deep sense of grief for the man he used to be. He feels as though his current life is a mistake, a pale shadow of what it should have been. He is exhausted, not just by the caregiving, but by the constant mental argument he is having with his own fate. He is saying no to the rainy morning, no to the aching knees, and no to the quiet house. In this moment of deep heaviness, we can turn to the wisdom of the Stoic teacher, Seneca. Seneca was a man who knew much about the sudden turns of fate. He was an advisor to an emperor, a wealthy man, and also someone who spent years in lonely exile on a barren island. He faced chronic illness for much of his life, and ultimately faced a difficult end with total composure. Seneca observed a fundamental truth about human nature and our relationship with the world. He wrote that fates lead the willing, but they drag the unwilling. This simple sentence carries a profound weight. Seneca believed that the events of our lives move forward like a great current. We can choose to swim with the current, using our energy to stay upright and find the beauty in the water as it passes. Or we can try to swim against it, clawing at the banks and exhausting ourselves until we are pulled under. The current does not change its direction because of our anger. The events of Robert's life are what they are. His knees will still ache, and Martha still needs his care whether he is angry or at peace. By choosing to be willing, Robert does not change his circumstances, but he changes his soul. He transforms from a victim being dragged by life into a man of grace who is leading his own spirit. He realizes that his strength is no longer in his legs, but in his capacity for love and patience. His fate has not diminished him. It has simply asked him to find a new kind of greatness. You can apply this principle when you find yourself overthinking a past betrayal or a family conflict that did not go your way. When you feel the familiar sting of resentment, realize that the past is now part of your fate. To hate the past is to hate a part of yourself that cannot be changed. You can also apply this when you are dealing with the physical changes that come with aging. Instead of seeing your body as a failing machine, try to see it as a loyal companion that has carried you through decades of life. It is showing you the map of your journey. This principle is also vital when you feel the weight of loneliness. Instead of resisting the silence of your home, try to embrace it as a space for reflection that you did not have when your life was busier. To begin this practice today, I invite you to use what I call the "It Must Be So" prayer. This is a simple but powerful way to align your mind with the reality of your life. Step number 1, find a quiet moment today. Perhaps while you are having your morning coffee or sitting in your favorite chair. Step number 2, identify one specific thing about your life right now that you have been resisting. It might be a physical pain, a quiet house, or a disappointment in a relationship. Step number 3, say the words out loud or very clearly in your mind. This is my life right now. It must be so, and I will find the good within it. Spend 2 minutes just sitting with that thought. Do not try to fix it. Do not try to argue with it. Just let the reality exist without your judgment. To deepen this practice, we can follow a simple 7-day plan for reclaiming our peace through acceptance. On day number 1, focus on your physical body. Every time you feel a twinge of pain, instead of sighing in frustration, say thank you to your body for its service. On day number 2, look at your home. Accept the quiet or the mess exactly as it is. On day number 3, look at your past. Pick one regret and tell yourself that it had to happen to make you who you are today. On day number 4, look at your current relationships. Accept people for who they are, not who you want them to be. On day number 5, look at your limitations. Find one thing you can no longer do and replace it with one thing you can do now, such as reading or listening to music. On day number 6, practice gratitude for a small, ignored detail, like the taste of a piece of fruit or the light coming through a window. On day number 7, review your week and notice how much energy you saved by not fighting the truth. This way of living is the path to true dignity. It is the understanding that your worth is not found in what you have lost, but in how you handle what remains. You are like a skilled sculptor. You did not choose the piece of marble you were given, but you are the only one who can decide what to carve from it. When you practice amor fati, you stop being a passenger in your own life, and you become the captain. You find that even in the quietest, most difficult moments, there is a beauty that can only be seen by those who have stopped running. You find that grace is not something that happens to you, but something you choose every single day. As you go through your week, remember that you are leading your spirit, not being dragged by your circumstances. You are a person of deep value, and your story is still being written with every breath of acceptance you take. As we bring this reflection to a close, I want to encourage you to take this one small step of acceptance today. It is a quiet act of courage that the world may not see, but your soul will feel. By choosing to love your fate, you are reclaiming your power and your peace. I would be honored if you would share your commitment to this path with our community. It helps us all to know that we are not alone in this journey. Please take a moment to reflect on your own path and then type in the comment section, "I accept my path with grace." I accept my path with grace. Let these words be a steady anchor for you throughout the day. May you find a deep and lasting peace in the reality of your life, and may you see the beauty in every step of your journey. We will continue to explore these ancient truths together in our next reflection. Stay steady and stay at peace. To bring all these ancient principles into your actual life, we must move from theory into what the Stoics called the art of living. This is the stage where we build a structured plan to protect our peace, and the core principle here is consistency over intensity. The Stoics did not believe that wisdom was a lightning bolt that struck you once and changed everything forever. Instead, they believed that wisdom was like a muscle that must be exercised every single day through a deliberate structure. This is the practice of sovereignty, which is the act of reclaiming ownership over your time, your attention, and your emotional reactions. By creating a blueprint for your days, you are telling the world that your mind is not public property. You are establishing a boundary that says, "I will decide what matters today." This structure is the foundation of your inner citadel. It is the difference between being a leaf blown about by the wind of other people's moods and being the steady tree that remains rooted, regardless of the weather. Sovereignty is about being the master of your own internal house, ensuring that you are the one holding the keys to your tranquility. Maintaining this kind of structure is incredibly difficult in our modern world because we are living in an era designed to keep us reactive. We carry devices in our pockets that allow the entire world to shout at us at any hour of the day. We are expected to have an opinion on every global event, to respond to every message immediately, and to be constantly available to the demands of others. For many of us in our later years, this can feel like a strange and exhausting landscape. We were raised in a world that moved more slowly, where there was space between an event and our reaction to it. Today, that space has been erased. We are pushed to overthink, to worry about things we cannot influence, and to let our emotional energy be drained by social media metrics or the 24-hour news cycle. Without a clear plan, it is very easy to spend your entire day responding to the agendas of other people, leaving no room for your own reflection or peace. The modern world wants your attention because your attention is valuable, but the Stoic knows that your attention is sacred and must be guarded with great care. To see the need for this blueprint, let us look at a fictional situation that might resonate with your own experience. Imagine a woman named Evelyn, who is 70 years old and lives a quiet life. Evelyn is a kind and caring person, but she often finds herself feeling scattered and anxious by the end of the day. Her morning starts by checking her phone, where she sees a frustrating news headline and a long, demanding text message from a relative before she has even had her breakfast. Her mind is racing. She spends her afternoon worrying about things she cannot change and feeling hurt by a dismissive comment a neighbor made while she was getting the mail. By the time evening arrives, Evelyn feels exhausted and heavy, as if she has been running a race she never signed up for. She feels like she has no control over her own moods. She wants to be at peace, but the world keeps pulling her in a dozen different directions. Evelyn does not need more information. She needs a structure that allows her to stand her ground. She needs a way to filter the noise so that she can hear her own voice again. This is where we apply the wisdom of the great Stoic teachers, who understood that a good life requires a daily training regimen. Epictetus, who spent his early life in chains, was especially firm on this point. He taught his students that they must be like athletes of the soul. An athlete does not just show up to the race, they train every morning and review their progress every night. Epictetus believed that we should never be without a philosophical principle ready at hand. Like a doctor keeps their instruments ready for an emergency. He often taught that the most important part of philosophy is not the reading of books, but the application of truths to our daily struggles. Epictetus wrote, "Every habit and faculty is confirmed and strengthened by the corresponding actions." This means that if you want to be a person of peace, you must perform the actions of peace daily. If you want to be sovereign over your mind, you must practice sovereignty in small ways every morning and every evening. He believed that by following a clear routine, we stop being victims of chance and start becoming authors of our own character. To help you build this sovereignty, I want to share a 7-day sovereignty plan that you can start right now. This is a practical, step-by-step guide to reclaiming your mental space. On day number 1 and day number 2, your focus is the practice of the release. Throughout these 2 days, I want you to identify 3 specific things that are currently bothering you but are completely outside of your control. This might be the rainy weather, a neighbor's grumpiness, or a political event in a distant country. Every time your mind starts to worry about one of these things, I want you to take a deep breath and consciously say to yourself, I release this. It does not belong to me. Spend these 48 hours practicing the art of letting go of small irritations. Feel the physical lightness that comes when you stop trying to carry the world's weight. On day number 3 and day number 4, we move to the practice of the gap. For these 2 days, your mission is to use the 5-second pause in every single conversation you have, even the pleasant ones. When someone asks you a question or tells you a story, wait for 5 slow seconds before you respond. Use this time to breathe and to ensure that you are speaking with intention rather than just reacting. This practice builds the space between the world and your soul. It reminds you that you are the master of your words and that you do not have to be in a rush to satisfy the pace of others. On day number 5 and day number 6, you will perform an information diet audit. For these 2 days, I want you to identify one source of information that consistently makes you feel anxious, judged, or less than. It might be a specific news channel, a certain social media app, or even a gossip column. Turn it off completely for 48 hours. Notice how the silence feels. Notice how your inner judge becomes calmer when it isn't being fed a constant stream of outrage and comparison. You are protecting the walls of your inner citadel by choosing who and what is allowed to speak to you. Finally, on day number 7, you will have a reflection day. Set aside 15 minutes in the afternoon to sit with a piece of paper or just your own thoughts. Write down or identify one specific moment from the past week when you are proud of yourself. Do not look for a great achievement or a public victory. Look for a time when you stayed calm, when you wanted to be angry. Look for a time when you were kind to yourself, when you felt like you had failed. Look for a time when you chose silence instead of an argument. This is how you recognize the growth of your character. To support this weekly plan, you must also have a daily routine that acts as the bookends of your peace. Your morning routine is your time for the preparation. Before you turn on the television, before you check your phone, and before the world enters your ears, you must speak to yourself. Sit for 3 minutes in the quiet and remind yourself of the truth. Say to yourself, I will likely meet difficult or ungrateful people today. They may be loud, and they may be unkind, but I know that their behavior is a result of their own confusion, and it cannot touch my character unless I allow it. I will move through this day with dignity, and I will hold on to my own peace. This morning preparation is like putting on a suit of emotional armor. It doesn't stop the arrows from being fired, but it stops them from reaching your heart. Your evening routine is your time for the review. Before you go to sleep, take 5 minutes to look back at your day with honesty and kindness. Do not judge yourself harshly. Instead, ask yourself 2 simple questions. Where did I lose my composure today, and what can I learn from it for tomorrow? If you were short with a loved one, or if you let a stranger's comment ruin your mood, acknowledge it. Then, tell yourself, I see where I tripped, and I will try to walk more steadily tomorrow. Forgive yourself completely, and then let the day go. It is finished. It is over. By doing this, you prevent the stress of today from leaking into the peace of tomorrow. You can apply this blueprint when you are feeling overwhelmed by a family conflict or when you are grieving a loss that feels too big to handle. By sticking to your small, daily routines, you give yourself a sense of agency when everything else feels like it is falling apart. Structure is the bridge between the wisdom you hear and the peace you feel. It is the way you honor the person you are becoming. As we conclude this blueprint for sovereignty, remember that you are not looking for perfection. You are looking for progress. Some days you will follow this plan perfectly, and some days you will forget. That is okay. The Stoics believed that the moment you realize you have wandered off the path is the exact moment you are back on it. Every morning is a new chance to be the gatekeeper of your own mind. You have the wisdom of your years, and you have the strength of your character. I invite you to take the first step of this 7-day plan today. Let us commit to being the masters of our own inner world together. In the comment section below, I would love for you to share your commitment to this daily practice. Please type, "My peace is my power." My peace is my power. Let these words be a sign to yourself and to this community that you are reclaiming your sovereignty. May your week be structured, your mind be steady, and your heart be at rest. I look forward to seeing you in our next reflection. As we bring our time together to a close, let us return for a moment to that image we discussed at the very beginning. Think once more of that family gathering and the shop. Dismissive words that once had the power to sting your heart and ruin your evening. Imagine that same relative speaking to you again, but this time, see yourself standing firmly within your own inner citadel. You hear the words, but you do not sign for them. You use your 5-second pause. You check your gatekeeper's ledger, and you realize that your worth remains untouched. The dinner continues. The food is still warm, and your heart is at rest. You have reclaimed your evening, and more importantly, you have reclaimed yourself. The greatest lesson the Stoics have for us is this: you cannot change the wind, but you can always adjust your sails. Your dignity is a flame that burns from within, and no external storm can blow it out unless you allow it. We have looked at the sovereign judge within us, the ledger we keep for the opinions of others, and the deep love we must have for our own unique story. Each of these is a tool that belongs to you. You are not a victim of your circumstances or your age. You are a person of deep experience and quiet authority. As you move into your week, I encourage you to use the blueprint we have built together. Start your journey with the 7-day sovereignty plan. Tomorrow morning, before you listen to the noise of the world, speak to your own spirit. Remind yourself that you are the only one with the power to decide if your day is good or bad. Throughout the day, practice the 5-second pause. Give yourself the gift of that small gap between a stimulus and your response. And, when the sun sets, review your day with kindness. Forgive your mistakes. Learn your lessons. And then, let the day go. It is finished, and it no longer has power over you. Before you go, I invite you to make one small, honest commitment to yourself. What is one opinion you are ready to stop carrying today? What is one small action you will take to protect your inner peace? Please share that commitment in the comments below. It might be as simple as choosing to breathe before reacting to a phone call, or deciding to turn off the news an hour earlier. When you share your intention, you help build this community of steady hearts. If this reflection brought you even a small measure of calm, Please join us by subscribing and sharing this video with a friend who might be feeling overlooked or overwhelmed. We are building our citadels together, one quiet day at a time. Please remember that these ideas are shared for your personal reflection and growth. They are not a substitute for professional mental health support. If you are going through a heavy season, please reach out to someone you trust or a qualified professional. Whatever your personal faith or background, I hope you find these ancient principles to be a steadying hand in your life. Thank you for your presence and your attention. It is a privilege to walk this path with you. May your day be steady, your mind be clear, and your heart be completely at rest. I look forward to seeing you in our next reflection. Please take this final thought into your heart and type it in the comments as a sign of your strength. I am the master of my own calm. I am the master of my own calm. Stay steady and be at peace.